It's a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you very much. And like I said, we are still awaiting for the Minister at the Urban Development Authority, Dr. Munsingha, to come, and hopefully he will arrive, as well as the Minister of Finance. But it is Parliament Day, I've been told, so hence the reason for delay. They do have their day jobs, which they have to take care of as well. But thank you all for being with us. Let me start with you, Mr. Jayasuriya. In terms of the Board of Investments here in Sri Lanka, how much more demand are you seeing now?
You mean in the tourism sector?
Yeah.
Well, as you can see, in the tourism sector, there are about maybe 4,000 to 5,000 hotel rooms under construction. There has been a boom in the tourism sector. I think Mr. Paddy Withana should be able to enlighten you more on that. But I can tell you from the investment perspective, there are a large number of investors who have been coming to the Board of Investments, particularly in the tourism sector, and of course in the mixed development and the apartments and the shopping complexes and so on. But it's mostly the leaders are in the tourism sector. There are a large number of hotel chains that have expressed their willingness to come here and then discuss. In fact, I must also congratulate the organizers of this conference. There are several recognized, serious investors, large number of them, have come during this conference, taking part in these gatherings, who have shown substantial interest, and then who have been in touch with us, seeking the possibilities and the do's and the don'ts, what they could do. Well, if I'm to confine myself to the question that you asked, I think I'll stop there.
Okay, Mr. Withana, let me ask you from, you have 40 years experience as a professional hotelier, someone within the tourism industry who's seen it from the private side as well. What do you think is the most essential thing or that the government can do to help promote tourism and to help promote investment? Because you've seen it from the other side.
Yeah, I think if you take Sri Lankan industry is managed by the private sector. The government we facilitate, we have the assets, all the land belongs to us, all the best land. The government value the assets what we give. So the most important at the moment is to create that safety and the security in this country. That's a government real responsibility. Today you find so many people do come to Sri Lanka and they travel the length and the breadth of this country, and that is what this tourism is spreading. That's what we need. We can get more people to the country because the country is ready for tourism, but the whole country is ready. Movement will take in place, whether it's on the southern coast or whether the east or the north or the central, the mountains, the tea plantage and the heritage, things are ready and people could travel. We government is looking at how to develop the infrastructure. That's what's important. That's why recently we decided we must get this the domestic airlines movement coming. We have the airline, there are 14 to 15 airports belong to the Air Force in the country. And that is the government investment, that's the government asset. We get the private sector to run the business for us. We are not looking at borrowing money, we got the investors to come and do that. Same with the hotels, we have all the chains hotels, we encourage them to work on those properties. And at the same time, they are very keen, the tourists, to get the SMEs to work. That's important. We are looking at tourism, the visitor must enjoy the authenticity and the experience of the people. And by doing that, the people will get the advantage. So we are looking at that SMEs, to develop SME and meet people who come out with properties. It's not only the tourists we are talking about, the Sri Lankan too travel at the moment.
Of course.
In this country. So we are looking at the both segment for the future.
We spoke earlier about, one of the other panelists mentioned marketing as that needs to be developed more in Sri Lanka, promoting Sri Lanka as a tourist destination. What do you think needs to be done? What has been done?
I think what has been done so far, I think whatever the promotion that happened or happening now is very country-centric, very market-centric kind of promotions. A lot of them, quite a few of them below the line promotions that are happening. I think what we are looking forward, going forward, I think create that global visibility. Go for that global campaign because I think we're serving at the moment about 22 markets, and Sri Lanka is positioned in such a way that accessibility most of the markets, if at all, probably we can leave out the South America and North America has even somewhat distant, but most of the other markets we have close accessibility. So that gives an advantage to a visitor as well in terms his total cost finally is going to be much less than compared to when you have a much longer haul. So global campaign is something that we'll be working on it at the moment, and I think we would be coming up with it very soon.
You mentioned earlier to me something about value-added tourism. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think as Upul was saying now, according to the projections, I think the number of rooms are expected to go up by another 3 years by 2080, close to 40%. I think number of rooms around closer to 20,000 now, and if you had ever reached this 45,000, then the question comes, what are we going to offer for tourists? What more than what we have right now? The thing is, if we have to go for repeat customers, then we need to give new experience all the time, and also each of them need to be memorable experience. So in that respect, I think we need, whilst there is a lot of focus and investors are channeling the investments to rooms, building up rooms, but also I think we need to have big activities, create that wow experience. For instance, what we saw yesterday, the video thing, what Prabhat showed in terms of creating a Texas on a beach or cricket museum, those are some novel ideas. I'm not saying they are the best, but it seems when you look at it for the first time, it comes out very impressive. I think we need to create a lot of those things because I think we have a history of the Dutch has ruled this country, the Portuguese have moved, the British has moved. So it can give a very kind of, we can think of something on those lines of creating a Texas in a city. I mean, we can create some of the history to marry with our heritage sites. That is very strong. So even our wildlife, I think probably will stand unique because you got the biggest animal on the land and biggest animal on the sea. We need to create that, work around that uniqueness to create that memorable and wow experience by value-added tourism.
What criteria is needed that the Board of Investments looks at that they give priority to? So some project comes in to the BOI.
It's like this, as far as tourism projects are concerned, we don't lay the rules, they have to lay the rules. It's open. Different types of hotel projects catering to different markets from different countries. Their wishes and their habits and their pastime habits are different from each other. So it is up to the investors to decide what's best for their clientele. And we are ready to tailor-make to whatever they may be requiring, even if it is above the normal thing that we have. We are ready to accommodate them, go any length, and then have them facilitate all the investments. In doing that, the BOI, being the one-stop shop, as it was incorporated in 1978, the first in the region after Singapore, opening its economy by the then president. The same ruling party was also was the same party that was in power in 1978. And now, as we all know, there was a war that was there in Sri Lanka that continued for nearly 30 years, which ended up in 2009. Now we have a situation in the country where it's even more peaceful than the all less peaceful West. So we are proud of that, and there is so much to explore in Sri Lanka. And also, when people come to Sri Lanka, they see what they would have seen in some countries, the village kind of atmosphere, that they have now got used to a completely artificial world in concrete jungles. So this is what they are longing to see in a different country, different cultures, with different religions, and the habits of the people that have been very much founded by the traditions that we have maintained and cherished for long years. So this is what we had to offer. Now from the Board of Investments perspective, we have the government budget has been proposed and is been debated, and the first reading is through, and it has been approved with a 2/3 majority, which is rare in a country. Several benefits have been offered as never before for this industry. High capital allowances, sometimes going up to 75%. And there are certain investors when they come to Sri Lanka, they will be looking at not only invest in a tourism project, they may want to invest in some other projects as well. They may want to invest not only in Sri Lanka but also in the region. So this could be the regional hub. They could shift their regional headquarters to Sri Lanka, which we will accommodate them under different gazette, and they will be entitled to all the benefits that we give them. So the inward bound remittances and outward bound remittances of the foreign exchange and or maybe the dividends is all free. No regulations are there with regard to such remittances. In fact, the Board of Investment is also the last bastion for all issues concerning the exchange control. Not the exchange control department. It is the Board of Investments that is the exchange control, if at all, but we facilitate each and every one of these investments from a private perspective.
Our rate of approvals of all, investment applications and projects, are they matching the demand for infrastructure and for buildings to be built?
Yes, I'll come to that by completing my answer what I began earlier. Secondly, we are also the one-stop shop with regard to all matters concerning immigration issues. Your experts and the professionals and the chefs and the investors, maybe the directors, whenever they want to come to Sri Lanka, those immigration issues are all tackled by the Board of Investments. Thirdly, all your tax matters are also handled by the Board of Investments because we are the authority on taxation. Fourthly, the customs duty. Whatever is not there in the negative list in the agreement that you signed with us, we are the customs department, and then we facilitate all those items which are not in the negative list to be brought in without any customs duty, all the capital items. So this is what we offer from the Board of Investments. Your last part of the question was
rates of approval.
Rates of approval. Now, it is required that we give our approval within a matter of 14 days. But sometimes in issues where another company that came last week with regard to their setting up of their regional headquarters in Sri Lanka, the day they met me, they submitted the application. The very next day I gave the approval. Within the week we signed the agreement also. So that is the speed at which we meet these demands. Whatever the time, we are ready. And in instances where there are issues that may come up that may not fall within the ambit of the Board of Investments, then we submit the issue for a decision to a committee called the Cabinet Committee on Economic Management, which is headed by the Prime Minister himself. And a decision will be taken within that week and sent down in a positive note. We are trying to see how these things can be done and finished, not trying to see how they cannot be done. And the decisions are thereafter implemented. So there is no obstacle at all at our end. We are a government institution. Usually it is said and understood that government institutions, government officials act lazy and slow. It is not the case either with the Tourism Authority or with the Board of Investments. We act fast and 24 hours, 24/7.
The government has identified 45 tourism zones.
Yeah.
for developments that are open for development. How were these areas picked? How were these areas chosen?
No, it was chosen with the demand of the tourists, obviously. If you look at all the zones are mostly in the coastal belt, and we are certainly in the north central, the heritage area, and we are some in the eastern bloc. So and in the upcountry. But if you look at all those there's a tourism attraction of them, and the zones that we have done is we have taken the area, we have taken the perimeters, we have done the surveys and identified those areas, and we work on the future, what should be there in those zones. But end of the day, what we are looking at the zones is to see that people move from place to place and they spend some time in this country, not get stuck in one particular place. The zoning is such a way we want the tourists, the visitors to travel from place to place. By having that, we are looking at what the benefit to the people. All the tourism, I don't think tourism could run if those benefits don't go to the community of the country. And because what I believe, the government is these assets belongs to mankind. And those are why we are looking at those. This country is not an island, 65,000 square meter, very small island, and is compact. We are talking about tourism 365 days a year. We are looking at any part of the country you could travel, and any part of the country you can enjoy a good holiday. And there's a safety point, and we look after the welfare of the tourists who come to the country.
What about the welfare of the country in itself in terms of protecting it or sustaining the country from overdevelopment?
No, the welfare of the country, we look at everything for possible. But if you look at all the values, all the assets we have, all the place of people do travel, the government has given so much facilities for this thing. You take the tourism, we look at we look at what you call, we have the domestic tourism place, domestic tourism office. We do work with the community, we do our CSR project, we meet the investors, we meet the private sector, and we do programs in the area. The welfare of the people. We have the education for people to get in, do the supply chain. That's something we are looking at very seriously. We are looking at establishing places where they go. We take the East Coast. We want to get the farmer, the fisherman, and everybody get the benefit from our tourism. We develop what you call a council there with a contact point with hotels and with the community. And those places where they will communicate with the hotels, and they will get the supply, the products produced from the people. So we look at those, we are established already, looking at the BP, getting the benefit of, I said earlier, I don't think tourism should be confined to only set of people. It must get to the grassroots level of the community. That's what we are looking at, the welfare of our own people. That's what the community we are looking at. How we get this supply chain working on that. This country, we look at, we have everything. We talk about rice, we talk about the vegetable, we talk about the foods, we have all the best fish on the ocean. Whatever we need, we have. We need to import anything for that matter. And we can get a good Sri Lankan meal, one of the balance about the lowest GI meal you can get in this world, our Sri Lankan food. So we get that product, we get that to people to do that. The people must go coming from our people.
So if Sri Lanka has everything that it already needs, if it has all the natural resources, if it has all the resources necessary to make it a tourism destination, why isn't it? I mean, granted, you've had 30 years of civil war. That's obviously it's a major step back. But it's been 8 years. Why have there not been big advertising campaigns around the world to promote Sri Lanka?
Yeah, it's a good question, Monica.
Because it's a country that actually sells itself.
Yeah, I think there was a kind of a global campaign probably soon after the cessation of conflict, but I think it has not continued. So I think now we're in the process of setting up a vision for 2020 and also 2025. So there is I think the vision is to create Sri Lanka as the finest destination which is diverse, authentic, and leave or create that memorable experience. So I think we are in the process of finalizing those issues, really getting our focus right on those things so that we position Sri Lanka, because I think the thoughts are that we have positioned in Sri Lanka, or attracted Sri Lanka has attracted a lot in the lower segment. So obviously it needs some thought to reposition to take it to bring in the higher segment into the market and reach those markets. So I think that's what it's currently working on, and I think very soon we should be coming up with a campaign to make that change.
What countries is the BOI looking at in terms of courting for investment? We know China. I also know that Japan has been a major investor when it comes to helping with the modernization of, and the expansion, I should say, of Colombo's main city airport. Who else are you looking to?
Well, China has been one of the substantial investors in Sri Lanka. Well, you didn't mention Malaysia. Malaysia is also a big investor in Sri Lanka. They made the single largest investment in one particular project. Japan, of course, and also the European countries. They're not second to the others. But if you look at the volumes of investments, in the recent past, there was the investment for the opportunities and the climate for investments. There were certain issues that were there. But as you may see, with the incoming of the new government in January 2015, with the new president who came here to this forum and then addressed yesterday, there have been a change of the attitudes and the mannerism, the rule of law, the principles of democracy, transparency, all that has taken a new height and hype in the entire region. So that is why this hype is there in all sectors for investments. Now this is a country, as far as the investments are concerned, we have a constitutional guarantee in Article 157 for the protection that we offer for investments of the foreigners. This is not enough. We are also offering to make it an entrenched provision in the new amendments that are being made to the Constitution. Apart from that, sometime back, there was a situation where the foreigners had to pay a stamp duty of 15% when they hired property, when they obtained property on the basis of a lease. Now that has been taken away. Now it is the same stamp duty that one has to pay a foreigner, whether you are a foreigner or a local, you only have to pay just 1%. This is again some new change and a development that took place with the new government. So the policy of this government is to encourage and promote investments into the country. Now, there was also some time back a couple of other issues with regard to the independence of judiciary, the appointing process of the judges. All these things have been put right. Originally, prior to 2 years before the incoming of the new president, the appointment of the judges was done by the president himself. The power that he had now given away to an independent commission appointed from the civil society, and also a commission that includes the members of the opposition, including the opposition leader and others from the civil society, well-learned men. So it is they who make recommendations of these judges to the superior courts, including important positions like the Inspector General of Police, the Attorney General, the Auditor General, and so on and so forth, Commissioner of Elections. So this is the transparent procedure that has now begun. This is the journey of this new government that they have now embarked upon. So it is this change that we are offering to the people in the world to say that we are now different. This is the place for investments. It is not only the beautiful beaches and the warm climate and the warm hospitality that we offer, but also we are ready and able to manage your investments to your satisfaction and then give you the full benefit of your rights. So it is this message that we are now carrying to the world, and that is why there is an enthusiasm as never before for people to come into the country. They are coming in a big way. China Port City has begun. Now with the Port City, it's just not a piece of land that is adding on to the map of Sri Lanka. With them, there will be so many other investors who will be coming. We have already signed up with Sabana, Singapore, who have got offices in about 90 countries. City planning and then creating new townships and zones and so on, and using the local talent, Sri Lankan talent, not only for the Sri Lankan issues, but also for in the countries in the region. Now, they are identifying 2-3 projects at the very outset. One of them is going to be the redevelopment of the Bere Lake. If you can see, if you go around in the city of Colombo, from whichever the side you try to approach, you will see the Bere Lake. It's very large. It's all over the place. There is so much of frontage to the lake. The Bere Lake will be redeveloped in the sense that it will be dredged and then purified, and all the nearby lands will be under this focus of the new project that is being envisaged, that will be taken forward and offered to the investors.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a guest. Minister of Finance. Thank you very much, sir. Glad you could make it. Don't worry, now all the tough questions go to him.
Yes. So I was just telling about the new MOU that has been entered into with Sabana, Singapore. So they will also be not only developing, making proposals with the help of our local professionals and their expertise from their own. It will be a joint company between the two, BOI and Sabana, 60-40, and there will be a directorate, and then they will be going to. And also, there is another jewel which is uncut. That is an island called Delft. In the northern peninsula, say about half an hour away from the coast there is an island called Delft, which has about 45 square kilometers. And that's the size of Male. And this island has a very small population. This island was originally used by the Dutch in the 15th century. And they were breeding the horses and exporting to the nearby countries. You can still see the remnants of those Dutch fortress, more than the fortress, the stables that they had. There are about 200 ponies in this island still. They are ill-fed and so on. But there is so much of potential is around it. It's an island. In this particular island.
Get straight to the point then, even with all the potential, Minister of Finance, you can have all the potential in the world, and you can have all the will in the world, but if you don't have the fiscal understanding, the fiscal know-how to actually make things happen, that will and that vision just stays put. Your government has inherited a very, to put it diplomatically, a very difficult economic environment. How are you managing all of that? Even though you are investing a lot in tourism, how are you managing that and balancing tourism with dealing with your debt?
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I appreciate that you recognize the fact that we have inherited a perilous economy, and from the 8th of January 2015, when the people of this country voted President Maithripala Sirisena and our Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, we have been able to focus on the country. And I must say, there were two ends of it. One was the political element and one was the economic element. The political element has been conquered very well with the President, Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, and with the Cabinet of Ministers. We have been able to address matters that were looked at from human rights perspectives, etc., which is absolutely essential for tourism. Then the economic aspect. This is an area which basically falls under us. It's not easy as the first one, but certainly over a passage of time, we have been able to bring financial discipline, fiscal consolidation, and consistency, coherency in the government. And that's the main aim of our government, to show that we have the capability and the conviction to carry forward our proposals. So with that, tourism plays a pivotal role. And I guess the inflow of tourism from 1.2 million to almost 2.3 to 2.4 million this year testifies or corroborates the fact that the people are looking at Sri Lanka.
One of the things that has been raised at this conference, that concerns that some investors have, especially foreign investors have, when looking at Sri Lanka as a potential place to put their money, is taxation.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
That's exactly what we have done. We have looked at utilizing the opportunity to its best. We have almost about maybe 500-600 hotels, and of that only about 10 or maybe 25-30 that pay taxes. So we make the taxation from 14 to 28, doesn't affect anybody. So we are given encouragement. As soon as the new companies that are coming in with the investment, with landmark investments, will get the tax holiday that are there. Companies that will basically invest in the companies, we have given interest free. We have given investment relief rather than tax holidays. We want them to put their money where the mouth is. And that's what we are basically doing. So in the past, we have given all the incentives and all the tax holidays, and what has it got? But now we are given investment relief, making Paddy's and Upul's life easy, so that there will be automatic attraction that will come towards our country.
Well, one of the interesting aspects in trying to pay off this debt is privatization of public buildings. What are you looking at that would be used for the tourism sector?
Yeah. Let me take it off Paddy for
sure.
one reason, because that has a wrong connotation.
Okay.
And before I let the chairman answer, let me put it in the perspective. This is not for revenue gaining. Non-strategic investments are what's basically commercialized. Mm-hmm. So it is in no way trying to use the funds that are inflow that will come in or into this commercialization process will not be used for debt servicing. So don't think that that's a government measure of trying to sell family silver, as some of the former government people are trying to project. That is completely a myth. It is simply the debt created by the last government, which was 1,784 billion in year 2005, January 1st, which has increased to 9.9 trillion, that's 9,900 on 8th of January 2015. 5-time increase in that debt needs to be looked at if revenues don't come in. So that's the reason why does a government need to run a hotel? You know, we have got to regulate and give the policy directions towards that. So we have armed forces running hotels, we have government institutions that suddenly picked up something which was going astray and then financed it and ran. So we want to consolidate all of them. And our budget proposal brings in further. All rest houses, government-owned, what do you call these? Circuit bungalows, all will be brought under one institution, which will basically guide and invest those in the proper manner. All forces, all the hotels that are owned by the forces will be brought into one incorporated company, which will be tourism-oriented rather than run by the forces. So that's been the reason. So please do not in any way think that this is commercialization, it's privatization for funds to pay off the debt.
Okay.
Now
good. I'm glad you cleared that up. What about Sri Lankan Airlines? What's happening with Sri Lankan Airlines? I mean, I just read that within the magazine on the plane, actually, that you're no longer operating flights to Europe.
No, that's wrong.
Then that's...
No, there is, I think, so you know.
Shall I answer that also? Makes it easier for him,
because finance problem, that's finance issue.
Embarrassed when I am here to give something which will contribute to tourism. What we have taken is that it is a loss leader. Any national airline is certainly not regarded as a loss per se. But what we have done is, it's a humongous loss. You don't need the taxpayers of Sri Lanka to subsidize Mr. Chu flying in from China or Japan to London via Colombo. You will basically, so the taxpayers are at the moment called upon to pay roughly 32 billion was in 2014 the loss. When Emirates ran it up to 31st March 2009, the total asset reserve that we inherited at the time it was acquired back again was 9,900. owing to the insanity that prevailed thereafter and the management style which was totally from professionalism, ran it down to 167 billion loss, which is, I mean, roughly in 8 years, you had a 20 billion loss a year. Now, that is something we want to stem. And with that, what we did was, we wanted a professionalism, non-political interference. We want to ensure that this is grown from a regional airline rather than an airline, national airline that runs the world. Europe became a point that we were flying into London, Frankfurt, Paris, Rome. And of that, except for London, all the others were losing. So we don't need to bring a tourist by losing as well. We certainly will have 3 to 4 flights a day out of London, consolidating Europe in there, and making a hub operation into Colombo. And then flying to China, to Japan, to Far East, maybe 3-4 times a day into those relevant areas, and make it a vibrant airline, which will basically be commercially responsive rather than just fly the world and lose money. So with that, what we wanted was, we wanted competent airlines associating with the government to run the airline. So we have looked at a public-private partnership in that process. And that's the evaluation process that we are in at the moment. We have certainly improved it at the moment, but still it's not good enough under our government itself. So I must confess that we are moving towards the right direction. We will certainly be pro-tourism in the sense that we will fly where is required. If not, we will tie up. We will have fifth freedom traffic given to all airlines in order to overcome the deficit that will be there by our non-flight.
Yeah, talking about the Sri Lankans, I think there are about close to 100 flights from Middle East to Colombo connected per week. And all those airlines touching all the leading airports in the Europe. So there's a connectivity for Sri Lanka and Europe. There's no way that if you look at most of our 90% people who do travel by air to the Sri Lanka, we don't have a road connection, either sea connection, very little. So though the airline, Sri Lankan left those cities in Europe, the connectivity is still available. And we do have, I'm sure that they are increasing the flight. We are getting the other airlines coming to Sri Lanka. The KLM start flying from Amsterdam. They started direct flight. Then KLM is with Air France. Okay, they do their connectivity and they do it. As the Prime Minister, Sri Lanka do have that London as a hub, and they do connect. We have our relation with other airlines. So there is no problem, effect on the tourism arrival to the country because Sri Lanka pull out from it. But it is more, as you said, why should somebody pay for the losses and carry the Sri Lankan taxpayer? So that's the very reason. And this other one, the building, we don't have any settle, we don't we do the public-private partnership. As I said, the domestic airlines, we are trying to look at that. We are looking at the airports, there's a government asset and we let the private sector run it. Same with those buildings, we are not going to take anything out from there. We need to develop, but the buildings are available. Why not the private sector? That's the government asset, that's a government asset. And that's a value. And we get somebody to invest. We don't want to borrow money. Already we have so much debts we have in the pipeline. So we don't want to borrow money. We get somebody to invest with us and our property we invest and run tourism. There's nothing wrong in that. I think we have a product, we have enhanced a number of rooms so that we have those heritage building renovated and coming to the other certain levels. So that's the idea of the government.
What also adds value, and perhaps a value that pays back in dividends, that it's immeasurable really from a monetary perspective, is the environment. Tell me about the Greening Sri Lanka initiative.
Which one?
The Greening Sri Lanka initiative, it's a European Commission funded project that's targeting at enhancing the environmental performance of hotels up to about 20%.
It's a green environment.
Yeah.
Green environment.
Yeah, so that's the eco-friendly ones that are basically coming in, which is rather concessionary, sometimes at almost zero interest rates that have been there to bring us more eco-friendly type of tourism. And that's being used to its maximum. And at this particular moment, we can see a huge reduction in the renewable investments in the renewable area, and we are taking full advantage at this particular moment.
How much does technology play into the new Sri Lanka?
We intend making it play a big role, but it's still at its infancy stage.
How come?
Well, we had to grapple with a 30-year civil disturbance, and our money is spent on that. It has been almost $3 trillion. So now that we are finished that, now is the time to invest back on the people, and we are trying to get into modern technology. Digitalization of our economy is one area that has been seen and shown, and we'll have that fully in fruition. We'll be the third country in the world that will be doing this, and we should have that by end of 2017.
From a BOI perspective, what mistakes do you believe the former government made that you can assure Sri Lankans and foreign investors that this government won't make?
Well, actually, this is a question that I don't like to answer, but now since you have asked me the question, well, I have compelled to say what my feelings are about it. Well, there were a couple of issues at that time. The decisions were made on rather individual basis more than on corporate basis. So, which is something, the powers that were vested with the BOI by law were usurped by certain officials and politicians.
Such as the airport in the south in Humbantota.
Yes, you said it. So, these powers that were usurped by various other parties, politically powerful and sensitive people, and also sometimes some officials who were also blessed by the authorities that were at that time, they were not taking the decision that they ought to be taking. Let me put it in a sugar-coated manner. So that is something that has changed under this regime. And the decisions, whatever that have been taken, will be taken only on merit and merit alone. I can assure you that. We are very open, we are very transparent, we are open for discussion. We can argue out if that be the case, if it's so necessary. We will take the decisions based on merit and nothing but merit. That's our assurance, that's the guidance from the government, and that's the mandate that we are carrying forward.
From, again, promoting a Sri Lanka perspective, any country that is a tourism destination does have a vibrant city center that people fly into and through to get to other destinations with the country. What about Colombo? What's being done to promote Colombo as a vibrant city center that if people want to have a city life for a holiday, a city break, they can come? And what's being done to build Sri Lanka, Colombo as one?
Yeah, that's true. I think probably we need to look at Colombo as making Singapore of Singapore where there's a lot of repeat, although it's just a small city. People keep going to Singapore or to Hong Kong or to Dubai. So these are some lessons I think we need to pick up to make Colombo a bit more live, more activities, whether it's a place for shopping or whether a place for fashion or whether it's a place for cultural activities. These are some thoughts that are being given at the moment so that we can create that hype in Colombo to make it a dazzling city.
If you were to look at timeline that you're looking at from a growth perspective and then for investors, a return on their investment, what are you looking at? I guess both Minister of Finance
Well, I
and
think
BOI.
we would like a return of maybe a payback in 4 to 5 years is ideal. But realistically,
That's very ambitious, isn't it?
Realistically, it's maybe 10 to 11 years. But that is depending on the real investment that is there. If you critically look at the investments you put in, it should yield within 7 to 8 years with what has been given. So that's what we are striving very hard. But remember, owing to the fact that the emphasis laid on the tourism and owing to the special affiliation that the world is having on Sri Lanka, the rates have gone up. And owing to that fact, the returns can be much better. They were projecting some of the hotels that came in, owing to room rates and with the environment which was pre-2015. But now it is post with much different changing circumstances. So your payback on that will be improved. And we will certainly look at the new hotels coming in, helping them to come up the areas that are required. On the areas of tourist destination as Colombo, we are doing many things. We would like to ensure it's a duty-free environment that we are doing. We are allowing VAT that is charged to be reimbursed where the foreigners can fly off. So we are trying to make it the cheapest in South Asia as a duty-free. Thailand is supposed to be the cheapest. We are trying to beat that particular one, and I just we'll be giving the facts to the chairman and the relevant industrial-led people in order to ensure that we get to that point.
What kind of impact is all this development having on locals?
Well, the development means opportunity. That includes job opportunity, the economic opportunities, and also the economy doing better than what we did in the past.
But labor has been identified as a major problem for investors here, hoteliers, or those within the food and beverage industry.
Well, that's a problem in certain regions, not only in Sri Lanka, other countries as well, but we have a solution. Whenever the investors find that they can't find the labor, they can't recruit the labor that they ought to from within, we give them the opportunity of bringing the labor from outside for that particular job. Not only the experts, but sometimes even in the construction industry. Whenever we find issues with regard to whatever the specialized skills that may be required, we give them the permission. As I told you, BOI is the guiding authority and the implementing agency for the immigration. So we give them the power and enable them to bring the necessary labor and then get their jobs done. So that is not an issue as such. That is not, and also one can also see is when you say there is an issue with regard to the labor, but it's also it's twofold. The other side of the coin is the industry should also be able to offer just another $10 more than what they paid earlier. When I say $10, they have been getting, I mean, our labor is very, very cheap compared with any other country in the region, whether it's India or Pakistan or any other country. And the average labor is costing them maximum $200. Why can't they pay them $210? That's where the problem is. If you pay them $210 or $225, there's enough labor.
So we've got some time for some final thoughts. If I was to say two words to you, I'd like for you to summarize what that means for you in the future of Sri Lanka. Heritage and sustaining heritage in Sri Lanka. Let's start with you.
So I think in terms of Sri Lanka is, as I said before, it's rightly positioned in terms to attract most of the markets, whether it's Middle East or European or Chinese or Indians or even the Southeast Asian. I think our 2,600 years heritage has a lot to offer, and a lot can be created to create that wow experience and memorable thing. Quite a few value addition that need to be done to create that thing. I think creating such things on the heritage and also using some of the resources. We have a whole lot of marine resources. We are surrounded by water, creating sports, water sports, and services in terms of for canoeing or those are some of the areas that we can do.
All right. Sir? Final thoughts on heritage and sustaining heritage in Sri Lanka? What do you think of? What will you say? How would you promote Sri Lanka if I say those two words, heritage and sustaining heritage?
Heritage.
How important that is?
Well, the cultural heritage you are referring to. Well, that's the richness of Sri Lanka. Our cultural heritage is never to be found anywhere in the region, not even in India. Of course, the early settlers into Sri Lanka came from India. But this is one country where it has been preserved. The family bondage, the family society, and the village atmosphere, the village traditions, the religious culture, the peraharas, the pageants, and all that is heritage that we have to offer. This is something unique in our country.
That's your marketing campaign right there.
That's the marketing campaign there. It has to be taken up by the marketeers. So this is something never to be found in anywhere in the region. It's not only just the smile of the Sri Lankan people and the hospitality, which is uncomparable. So many foreigners I know, when they were here during the time of the tsunami, they were talking with so much affection. When they were affected by the tsunami and then when they had to run for their dear life, they went to a Sri Lankan house. Sometimes the only bed that was there in the household was offered to the foreigner. And the little meal that they could afford to was given to the first gave the offer and the hospitality was for the foreigner. The foreigners who are affected and who are afforded this kind of opportunity, they remember it with so much of affinity and then so on. This is never to be found anywhere in the region. And all that they had with them, their possession, sometimes was nothing, or sometimes whatever they had was preserved and then they were protected. Sri Lanka is a country with our rich heritage, still, I would say boldly. You can walk even at 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the night from Fort, even to Mount Lanier or to any other destination. You are not harmed. You are not harmed. If you are in a difficulty, there will be tens and hundreds of people who will come to you for help. And this is our heritage, never to be compared with anywhere in the region. This is different for the others. The warmth and the openness that they have for the foreigners. This is something unique that any foreigner will experience when they come to Sri Lanka. You won't find this in Europe. You won't find this even in Asia, in any other country.
You, sir?
Well, I think, adding on to the last two speakers, all I could basically say, the unique selling proposition of Sri Lanka, I would basically say, is you have 4 seasons all in one country. In one day you can visit. 4 hours, 3 hours you can go to a cool climate. You can go to, if you want to be sweating your day out, you can be in another 2 hours that is there. You can be in the tea, into the tea estates. Then you can go down to ruined cities, you can go to game parks, all within 2 to 3 hours. Tell me one country that offers that type of thing. That's why a unique selling proposition is that. Beyond that, the hospitality that is there from Sri Lanka, even when we had aberration of peace, when we had our own civil disturbances, there are not one foreigner that was affected. And that's the sense of safety net that is there in Sri Lanka. So this is something we can proudly sell. And when the rest of the world is going through turbulent times, Sri Lanka, God willing, is the safest point. And we call upon foreigners who are coming today to look at what is there in Sri Lanka. This is your time. We have excellent Sri Lankan businessmen that are there who are in the tourist industry. We like to see that the Sri Lankans develop themselves further. But if not, if there's a gap that needs to be filled, we invite the foreigners to come and take advantage of the opportunity that we have given. So you have a government from our President, Prime Minister itself selling Sri Lanka as a tourist destination. But we don't want numbers. We want the quality rather than the quantity, because we believe that is where the rich cultural heritage can be protected and get into the next stage.
Sir, you have 20 seconds.
Heritage and culture, there's something, the unique selling point of Sri Lanka, like any other country. We are unique on that. If you look at the conflict we had the 30 years, but because it was went through, and everything was came to settlement because of heritage and the culture. And that's something that we could very proudly give to the people. You take this country, whatever the area, you pay the whole country, there are issues, there are heritage sites, whether done by UNESCO and made man-made. And it is what is unique. And our culture is something that is another unique feature in this country. So we look at this both and how this government, then the president and the prime minister, who protect the environment, who protect the culture, who protect the heritage. And there's something they are unique, and their policy they are looking after this. And as I said some time back, he's a mankind, belongs to mankind. Mm-hmm. And he's left to the authority to protect. And we are so proud under this government that they take that protection and protect our heritage and culture. And that will be over the future. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you all.